My name is Walter Newman. I have been asked to do an interview with you for the upcoming cable segment. I'm standing here next to the Grandmaster and heir of the SUNGLUNG systems, Shidoshi Rivera.
Chen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I already have a few questions to ask. Earlier, I spoke with your students, and they gave me a few questions they wanted me to ask you. But first, I personally have one question. Do you mind me asking?
Please do.
As you came in, I noticed you had calluses on your knuckles. What is that?
We train in the old ways, makiwara. It's the development of the hand for the art of breaking. It's, as far as I know, a lot of schools have just discarded that particular type of training due to the fact that you have what we call whining babies.
What's makiwara?
Makiwara is a training device. There's different types of training devices that we use to condition the hands, knuckles, the forearm, the elbow, the feet, various types.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I'll start the interview. How long have you been studying martial arts?
This November will mark my 54-year anniversary.
50 years. And why don't you have dragon tattoos?
Well, a lot of my associates and dojo brothers, they do sport dragon tattoos, but I myself was taught at an early age that I need to find what defines me, so I never prescribed to the notion of getting what everybody else has. What I do have are two distinct tattoos. My left arm represents my SUNGLUNGMIU system, and my right, my Goju-Ryu.
Hiroshi, what has changed in the martial arts?
Well, there are a lot of things that have changed. Number one, it's become more commercial. A lot of the fighting aspects, traditionalism that we held dear, let's say in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, have been foregone for the simple fact that people want quantity and not quality.
Why do you train in the manner that you do?
I was introduced to the martial arts at an early age in my life, and we were introduced to the method of Bushido.
Bushido?
And yes. When you understand what Bushido is, you try to preserve tradition to the effect where change is great, but the old ways are still the best in the sense where you have a solid foundation.
Why are you so strict about your SUNGLUNG systems?
That's a very good question, which I will somewhat elaborate on. One of my main instructors, the Owen Owen Wat-Son, was screwed over many years ago to the point where his name was left out of the roster, and basically they tried to just erase his history. So I learned from what they did to him, and with the guidance of my Sensei Yamamoto, to protect what's mine, so that in later years, an individual can't come along and lay claim to what's not his and blot my name out.
Okay. Your students, all of them, they must test for the white belt?
Yes, sir. We have a strict policy where once you commit to our dojo, we wait 3 to 6 months after we actually teach you a foundation to see if you're qualified to obtain a white belt. Why should I reward you with something that you haven't earned? When you walk into my dojo, you're a novice. So I'm not going to give you a white belt or award you a white belt. You have to earn it.
I can understand that. When did you know that you wanted to become a full-time teacher of martial arts?
There's a very, I don't want to say funny, but a very important story that goes with that. Back in 1976, while I was attending one of my classes in Chinatown, this individual walked in off the street. Big bruiser type guy. And he was very disrespectful. He came into the dojo using cuss words and, you know, I can blase, you effing karate guys, and, you know, just bring your master out here. And unfortunately, my senior instructor was teaching that day, and he accommodated him. He asked him to come on the floor, and he laid a lesson of pain upon this individual. But what made it so different, it just wasn't the idea or the notion of him kicking his behind. It was what transpired afterwards. It was the lesson that he instilled in this individual and what he taught him. And right then and there, when I saw how he handled the situation after he pummeled this guy. But the gentleman left away with a lesson. Right then and there, I knew that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
What are some of the things that you dislike that are happening in the martial arts today?
That's a long list. I'll touch on a couple. Well, first off, you have these young pups that do what we call dojo hopping. They'll spend X amount of time in this dojo, then that dojo, and another dojo, just learning some basics, and then walking away and creating their own system without having any true knowledge or foundation of one particular art. Second is you have these individuals that do what we call trading paper. And that's when an individual that hasn't trained with you receives rank in your system, not being a student. That is, to me, very disrespectful. How is it that a person in the United States is certified in a system from the guy in Germany? You've never been to Germany, you've never trained with this gentleman in Germany, but you're a ninth dan in his system. That's utterly ridiculous.
Shidoshi, why is there no gender separation in your dojo?
Well, on the floor, we're all practitioners. In the real world, you're more likely to be accosted by a male as opposed to a female. If you can handle yourself against a male, you'll have no problem handling yourself against a female on the street.
This sort of goes hand in hand with the next question. Why are you so brutal when it comes to teaching your SUNGLUNG systems?
I know exactly who asked that question. It's not the fact that I'm brutal, but if you're not prepared for an onslaught, and when I use the word onslaught, I'm talking about you have individuals that have a game plan that I'm going to punch somebody, I'm going to kick somebody, I'm going to take somebody down, but they've never felt pain. They've never been on the receiving end of that factor. If you've never been hit, if you've never been slammed, if you've never been choked out, you have no clue what's in the real world. In the real world, there are no rules. It's about survival. So if you're going to train in my system, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. So when you go out in the street, you have an idea of what you can take and what the real world consists of.
Wow. Shidoshi, how do you feel about training kids or children?
Well, I myself do not train children. I have other instructors under me in my system that take on the mantle of teaching children. First off, my dojo is not a babysitting facility. We do not teach anyone the true curriculum of SUNGLUNG under the age of 11. You see, children have a very short attention span. And when I was being trained at my young age, I don't want to say abused, but there was no slack cut whatsoever. And today, you have all these children that are coddled and spoiled and given everything under the sun that they want and not what they need, okay? How is it that you have a 5-year-old who's trained for 18 months and all of a sudden he's walking around with a shodan? That belittles an adult who spent 5, 7, 10 years obtaining a shodan, and here you have this kid in a babysitting environment who's walking around with an obi the same rank you are. That to me is extremely disrespectful.
Next question, Shidoshi. Why do you turn potential students away?
I don't want to use the term turn away. It's just, after doing this for so many years, I get a feel for individuals. And if you come into the dojo with the aspiration of being a martial artist, like that, overnight, you live in a fantasy world. And then you have individuals that walk in who have the wrong personality to be taught or instructed in the martial arts. They're bullies, they have no compassion, and their only purpose for learning martial arts is to hurt other individuals. And I, for one, will not be the person teaching these individuals who have a screw loose.
Let's change the question here. Let's go to a lighter side. What was some of the funniest things that happened to you in your dojo?
Wow. Okay. When I first moved down here from New York, I had opened a dojo in '92, and it was the second or third month of us being in operations, and we were getting ready for our evening class, and a gentleman walked with a bag and a patch, and it was a crazy looking patch. And he introduced himself as Master, I believe his last name was Gonzalez. And he, first thing out of his mouth was, "Do you kumite?" And I'm like, "Yes, we kumite, but we're getting ready to start class." So I asked him to come back at 8:30 that evening after class was over, and we could dance. Well, at 8:15, this gentleman showed back at the dojo, and he sat, class ended, my students left, myself and two of my brown belts remained. We locked the door, we were still in uniform, he went to the back, he changed, he came out of the changing room, and lo and behold, to my surprise, he had this yellow gi wearing a gold belt, and he was the founder of, get this, the Golden Cockroach style. I mean, I didn't knock it, I just never heard of it. So he bowed on the floor, I bowed, I stepped to him, and he jumped on his back and started flailing his hands and feet. And I'm standing there looking at this individual, and I'm laughing. I mean, I am laughing hysterically. And I asked him, I said, "What the hell are you doing?" And he says, "This is my Golden Cockroach style." I said, "Listen, man, this is not, a joke. I need to get off the floor, change, and get the hell out of my dojo before you get hurt." And he was surprised that I wouldn't engage him while he was on the floor flailing. So he got up, bowed, changed, and walked out. I laughed my butt off hysterically. My students were on the floor. Another time, we went to do a demo, and we were there with along another school, and this one individual was doing a bokata. Well, he started, did 2 or 3 moves, and during the process of him bringing his bow down, he caught himself in the spot, what I'm talking about, right in the center.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And he let out a yelp, but more importantly, when he yelled a yelp, all you saw was this brown doo-doo coming down his leg. Now, that was funny. I'm sorry. That was funny. I mean, it didn't happen in my dojo, but it happened in my martial arts career.
Only when it doesn't happen to you.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Well, next question. Why do your close friends refer to you as Wolf?
Okay, I am of mixed culture, and the wolf represents who I am. The wolf has a great influence on my life, has had influence on my being born and my instruction. So only my close friends call me Wolf.
From speaking with your students, I understand that you have disciples. Can you explain to me what a disciple is?
Okay. I have students. Okay. My disciples are chosen very carefully. My disciples spend many years with me before they're even approached for discipleship. My disciples believe, respect, and hold dear the idea of preserving our system the way it was handed down to me. Therefore, they're chosen. And their path is one of, I guess, great responsibility. And I couldn't run my dojos without my disciples.
Shidoshi, when did you first start bouncing and bodyguarding?
That was in 1974. I had the opportunity to bounce at a bar called McCann's. It was back on 42nd Street in New York, back when the Deuce was the Deuce. And I worked Thursday, Fridays, and Saturday nights. It was a great experience because that was one of the avenues that led me to actually understand how to apply what I learned in the dojo in a real world environment. And it was a great experience for handling people and knowing and learning what works and what doesn't work in the real world. As a result of me doing that, I was approached by a gentleman who used to own a couple of, get this, peep shows on 42nd Street. So I became one of the security personnel at one of the peep shows on 42nd Street. And what was funny was that while in the process of being employed as a security personnel at the peep shows, I saw a lot of people that you would not believe would walk into these peep shows to partake in the peep world involvement. And it's funny how many of them, you know, are around today that have this so-called, quote-unquote, righteous feeling of being superior, and they're nothing but closed-door freaks.
Okay. What are your future plans for your SUNGLUNG systems?
Well, first off, I want to make sure that my SUNGLUNG system is preserved in a manner that is prescribed by me according to the teachings that were handed down to me. I don't want my system to become a commercial play toy. I want my system to continue to be taught in a way that it should be, in a sense where we are not going to sacrifice the true teachings just to make a buck.
Mm. Who influenced you the most in your martial arts?
I had the privilege and the distinct pleasure of studying with great gentlemen, but the two most influential men in the martial arts world that helped me evolve and understand my calling were my Sensei Yamamoto and my Owen Owen Wat-Son. Without them, I would not have the understanding and knowledge of what true martial arts is today.
Okay, thank you. Why do you have individuals sign waivers and release forms before they can spar or get on the floor with yourself or disciples?
Well, in this day and age, everybody is suit crazy. People are just looking for an avenue to make a quick buck. But also, it protects us from these flakes that have the notion that they're martial arts experts from watching MMA or buying videos or going to seminars. That protects us and limits the liability.
Okay. What do you want to be remembered most for?
A passionate teacher, an individual that didn't sacrifice truth for monetary gain, an individual that chose to stand by himself and not surrounded by fakes, snakes, and phonies.
Your students wanted me to ask you, why do you only wear a red belt and only during ceremonies or demonstrations?
Well, my students know who I am. They know my rank and they know my title. And you have all these individuals today that have these beautiful, elaborate belts that they wear everywhere they go, tournaments, shows, and they're unqualified. So why do I have to stand here and wear something to show you who I am or what I am? My skill speaks for itself.
How do you feel about seminars and teaching camps?
Well, that's a double-edged sword here. Seminars and teaching camps are great for individuals who already have a foundation within a system or who have a desire to learn something outside their system. But what I don't like or appreciate about seminars is that you have individuals that go around to different types of seminars and then use those seminars to say that they're accomplished in that particular system, which is ridiculous.
Well, that's the end of the questions I have for you for today. We want to thank you for your time, for allowing us an opportunity for this brief interview. And we look forward to the next interview with you and your students where we get a glimpse of the reality of the SUNGLUNG systems. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to that. Chen and SUNGLUNG forever.